The recent reaction from both fans and critics to the newest Marvel release, Morbius, has been very extreme. Doesn't seem like many people like it at all. And while I've not seen it yet, I think it shows something that I've been noticing recently, and I feel like I've been onto before a lot of other people, and that is, I don't think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is as strong as it used to be. And obviously, I can't say that much when I haven't seen Morbius yet, and I just generally haven't been keeping track of it as much as I used to, but that is part of the issue, actually. Everything is so interconnected now that even to understand the context of the multiverse for Spider-Man No Way Home, for Morbius, for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, you have to have already seen WandaVision, which is on Disney+. And obviously you can watch it without having seen that and understand it, but it's explained in other content that is actually locked through a subscription service. Now, obviously the MCU has always been very interconnected, but it was in a different way than it is now. The stories have always been taking place in the same world, but they were still standalone stories, especially the very early days before the Avengers. They had no connection between each other, except maybe a few references here and there. And then the Avengers really changed everything. But still after that, a lot of the movies that were being released could stand on their own and not be completely connected with everything else. And when all those stories finally came together in Infinity Wars, I think that was a really good movie. That's one of my favorite Marvel movies, probably my second favorite. But I feel like since Infinity War, they've been trying to continue everything being super connected in every movie, every show. I feel like it all tries to connect through to everything else and all lead up to bigger things instead of just naturally building up to bigger things like it had before. I used to be a very big Marvel fan, but I just have not really felt interested in anything lately that's been released by them. Sure, I'll watch the movies that they release, but I'm definitely not as invested as I used to be. And part of that is not just the interconnectedness, that definitely contributes, but also, and this is the next point I have, Disney. And I feel like Disney creates a black hole for passion. And that's something that is really important in filmmaking, is passion. You can tell when a movie was made with passion behind it versus when it's made with money behind it. Something I use as a good example is the Saw franchise. I feel like the first movie and maybe the second, you can tell, even though the execution is not amazing, they're very low budget movies, you can tell there was passion behind the creation. But as you get into the later sequels, they just feel soulless and empty. But the studios know that it's a profitable IP. And right now, if you're talking about intellectual properties in the film industry, the MCU is probably the biggest one. And Disney does not have a great track record already with Star Wars of bringing passion into IPs that have a ton of money behind them. And I think we're starting to see that. I think we're starting to see Disney is pumping out all this Marvel content because at the end of the day, it's gonna make money. People like watching Marvel, people like watching superheroes. It's an easy kind of movie to watch. But I don't feel like there's the passion behind it that there used to be. And I feel like that was an issue that was also plaguing DC after the Nolan trilogy, because they were trying to recreate the Marvel success, which was lacking in any passion. But then with the new Batman, for those of you who have seen it, there is definitely passion behind the making of it. And it's not a studio mandated sequel. Same with Joker. But for the most part, I think the superhero genre is lacking in passion. When it was early and it had to prove itself to make money, the only movies that could really get anywhere were ones that had real passion behind them. And I felt like even Infinity War, which is pretty much the epitome of the superhero genre, that and Endgame, just being the culmination of everything in Marvel that had come before it, I think Infinity War still had passion behind it. I think Endgame did not as much. It just felt lacking. And while they both made money, I do think there's a clear difference in quality between the two, just by passion. Now, a movie that doesn't have passion behind it does not mean it's not enjoyable. I think Marvel is really fun to watch, but I feel like there's a trend of making things fun to watch that is not healthy for cinema as a whole, that kind of, as Martin Scorsese said about cinema, I didn't really mean to reference this, but he was saying it's more like a theme park, which honestly is kind of true. It's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be high quality storytelling, which I think there's a place for both of those. I think we need fun movies, but we also need another kind of movie. And I feel like with the success and the amount of money Marvel's making right now, it's not going to change. But maybe with Morbius being definitely a clear failure right now, hopefully some people might realize. Because it's gone beyond Marvel now. Obviously, Star Wars was just completely devoid of passion in the sequels. They were just terrible, but still relatively fun to watch. And also just the interconnectedness of everything. It's happening too in Star Wars, which I guess Marvel and Star Wars are both Disney. But you can have a universe that is all takes place together, but not have to tie everything together constantly, which is how Marvel used to be, which is how Star Wars used to be. Obviously now it's completely different because it's more than just some movies. But I am a little bit worried by the trend that recent movies are taking, which is they seem to be following the trend that the MCU created of trying to make everything intertwined together and making really fun movies that will make a lot of money but aren't necessarily just high quality storytelling. Obviously, that's not to say that there's none of that out there. My last video was on Parasite. That's an amazing movie. Obviously, anything Christopher Nolan makes, whatever you think about Tenet, he's still gonna make his own things, even if they are crazy action thrillers. It's still Christopher Nolan. He's one of the best filmmakers of all time. There's still good stuff out there. And also, I'm not saying Marvel is bad. To say that, I would be lying to myself. I like watching Marvel movies. They are very fun. I just think the MCU has created a trend that is unhealthy for the film industry as a whole. What do you think? Do you think the MCU has created a bad trend, or is it totally fine? Let me know in the comments, and I'm out.